Yes, welcome to the No Ideas original podcast featuring Shannon, Mr. Rob, and Zane. Zane gonna tap in with us in a minute, but today we are joined by some legends. We got producer Baby Paul in the house, and we got DJ Mr. FX in the house. What's up, y'all?
Peace, Kings.
Peace,
How you
peace.
doing? How you doing? How everybody doing?
I'm hanging in there, man. Thanks for pulling
Well,
up and
man.
having this conversation with us. Yo, anytime we
Yeah.
have the opportunity to build with people that that have the length of experience that you both have in the game, it's definitely a crucial conversation. Like, yo, I've been into hip hop for mad years. Without saying my age, and I'm in my 40s, but I still consider myself a student of the game. So I'm always interested in building with dudes that have the type of experience that you brothers have.
That's real, because I feel the same way, and I've been around for a little while. I've been around a little while.
You got. You see, you on the same time I'm on. You don't no need to say the age. Just know I've been here for a minute.
Yeah,
Yo, so go ahead.
I mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say, music is infinite and it's ever evolving, so you gotta evolve with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
so
a fact.
I still feel like I did when I was age 25 when I started, man. Every year is an adventure, and
That's
I
right.
just keep going.
That's a fact. That's a good segue into what I mean for both of you. I want to ask, how'd you find your way into music? Because a lot of our music journeys don't start with hip hop. It's something else that sparks that interest that gets us into music. So for both of you, how'd you end up finding your way into music?
I'm gonna let DJ Mr. FX talk first.
Oh man. Mine is like the cliche story because I'm originally from South Jamaica, Queens, right?
Okay.
So I'm from 109. So for me, as a young kid, all I saw was park jams. Salute to Grandmaster Vic, Disco Twins,
Facts.
Infinity Machine, and things like that. So for me, it always been about the music because it was everywhere. It was
Right.
prominent. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Uh, um, like I'm like where I'm from. It's like you got Merrick Boulevard, and back in the days, God Brewer, it used to be called New York Boulevard. So a lot of people don't know. So you had the D's, you had on Jamaica Avenue, the Jamaica Avenue. It was a famous roller skating ring that you had. Um, Grandmaster Flash and Money Mel and all of them used to come there and things like that. They got flyers and things like that to document all of this stuff.
Right.
So for me, it was really about the music. And then my older cousins, every Friday they was going to the Red Parrot and they was talking about this and that.
Wow.
So I was just like,
You
know,
showing your age too, Mr. DJ.
you know what's so funny? I'm kind of like proud of my age because
As you
you know,
should.
yeah, because I grew up. I'm the same age as hip hop.
That's right. All right.
You know what I'm saying?
Seen it since its inception.
Yeah. So it's like like we the same year. You know what I'm saying? I'm a 1973 baby. You know what I'm saying? I'm proud of it. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right. Don't feel bad, bro. I'll be 50 years old. I'm 72, B.
Yo,
And
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
have
this
a
way.
problem showing it.
Put it
I
this
don't have
way.
a problem showing it and speaking on it. You know what I mean?
Put it this way. We all some grown ass men, dog.
That's a
Facts.
fact. That's
Yeah,
a fact.
man. So
That's a
I would
fact.
just say for me, it started with you know, I mean, I grew up in Jamaica, Queens also, but then I also relocated to parts of New York like Brooklyn,
Right.
Crown Heights, Flatbush.
Right.
So I was able to be inspired by the greats before me. I was a kid, I was a fly on the wall in the same streets and neighborhoods that Run DMC came up in, LL came up in, Mikey D came up in, the list goes on. A lot
Mikey
of Queens
D.
legends. A
Yeah.
lot of
Yo,
Queens
you know
legends,
what's
you know what I mean?
crazy?
Sweet Tea, Kid and Play, Herbie Love Bug, Salt and Pepper, like
A lot of
Queens
his, lot
was
of history, a
in
lot of
my
history.
blood, man.
And,
Yeah.
and it's funny you say Mikey D because I remember growing up, I had a friend who lived on 225th,
Hmm.
Springfield Boulevard, Farmers Boulevard out there somewhere. And he used to have
Hmm.
jams in the one park. And Mikey D used to come out there looking for LL. Like, where this nigga at?
Yeah, he wanted to battle him. It's true.
Yo, he always wanted to battle him, son. And I was like, yo, wow, I'm actually in the epicenter of some shit right here. And I had to know
exactly
12, 11. And I was able to travel out there. Huh?
Shout out to Mikey D. What's so crazy? Shout out to Mikey D, because remember he did the second Main Source album when after the first Breaking Atoms came out.
Okay.
Lost Professor and K Cut, had it went into that hiatus, right? And I keep in touch with Mikey because I'm one of the silent curators of Main Source to this day, which I'll share later.
Wow.
And he told me that him and LL are still
like
very
that?
close friends to this day. Like they get on the phone throughout the year and check on each other. You know what I'm saying? Behind the scenes, like, so I respect L for that, because he remembers where he's from despite all his success. For like Mikey D in the past year to tell me he just spoke to L, like, to me that's just dope.
Yes,
because there's levels to this.
Real quick. I just like a shameless plug. So there's a park, St. Albans Park, and I'm gonna tell you, there used to be a famous band that used to actually play that park. Tom Brown. A lot of people don't know that song, Jamaica Funk.
Funkin' for Jamaica.
Yeah. I'm just gonna break that down. That song is actually paying homage to Jamaica.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The part where he goes, going to 165th Street Mall, they talk about the Coliseum block.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the Cardi block. Yeah.
All right. That's what's up.
Let me say this also. So, people get into the industry based on their passion, but something makes you shift from being passionate about the music into business mode. What is it that what becomes the impetus that makes a person shift from being passionate about music to going into business mode?
It's funny you say that, because for me, that's exactly what happened to me throughout my career as I grew in my career. My first 5 years as a music producer, starting out with the Beatminerz, shout out to Eva D, Mr. Walt, you know what I mean, and producing for Duck Down Records, shout out to Black Moon, Smith & Wesson, Helter Skelter, OGC. First 5 years of my career, I was a fan of the music first, and then I got the opportunity to actually contribute to the culture through these records I was doing.
Right.
And yes, I was getting paid, and yes, I started getting my name out there, but I was doing it for the love. I was doing it for my peers. You know what I mean? Like, I was fans of Tribe and Pete Rock and Gang Starr and of course Main Source, everything that came before me. So when I was blessed the opportunity to actually make records that my peers could hear it, I'm just like, oh wow, this is dope. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But then the reality sets in when you have to manage your finances and your means and be responsible as an adult, earning a living, doing this as a career. You got to pay attention to the business. You got to pay attention to your publishing. You got to pay attention to your worth as a producer, how much you get paid for your records. You got to pay attention to the business structure of the deals you do, whether as a producer or an artist. You got to pay attention to them contracts. You have to have relationships with lawyers, people that do marketing, all the stuff behind the scenes. If you don't understand the business, at some point, you're going to get lost, and the art, you know what I'm saying, will be, you'll be the dude that's into the art, but you're not earning a good living off of your art. So for me, I had to have that balance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
How do you
How
do you keep the creativity though? Because you see some people become totally entrenched in business that all of the creative juices are sucked away. I've heard people say before, you listen to a lot of dudes' first album and it's their best work because they hungry. That's they was eating a $1 hero from the bodega, going to the studio, getting high and writing, and they were committed. But then once they started getting the trappings in the industry and making the money and became business minded, some of that creativity seemed to go away. So how do you keep that hunger and stay creative?
Right. Well, both. Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was to piggyback on this question. I was going to ask the both of y'all, what drives the both of y'all?
Right. For me, it's first the love of the music. I mean, I listen to everything. I listen to all type of genres of music. I don't get into this mindset that because someone is out making music and they're younger than me, I can't listen to it. I can have my personal taste and preference because I'm creative, but I still listen.
Right.
Because listening is also a form of education. You can learn from something. And then
Absolutely.
in the process of that, me being out and about and being a networking type of person, I end up meeting different people. I meet people in the younger generation aspiring to get into this, and I become a mentor. I share my experiences and my knowledge for them so they can learn from my tenure, from my mistakes,
Right.
and be able to be in a better space coming into it. And
Right.
then on the creative side, I can hear what they're doing and be inspired by that and be like, oh man, he's putting it together. Then learn about equipment and software and technology and the changes in the digital age of technology to know how to apply that and still make records and be
Right.
competitive. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's the short version of my answer to that. I'm gonna let effects talk.
Mine's is, the creativity, and then, you know, basically how can you um change the scope of everything.
Right.
You
Become innovative.
yeah, of course you wanna be like, okay, wow, he flipped it like this, I could do this. You know, it for me, it gets a little bit competitive, a little bit in my head.
No
You
doubt.
know,
DJs are like that, son.
if that really kind of makes sense.
Right.
Just like if I go to a gig and DJ's hot, I'm just like, oh, he ripping it up. I'm just saying to myself, like,
My
okay,
set gotta be fire.
yeah, it gotta be. It's like, it's like running a race. Like, whatever you do, like if you could be in sports, you could be, baseball, whatever. It's like you wanna be that person and be like, yo, you don't want to be left out. Like, okay, let me,
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. You gotta stay. You gotta keep your ears to the street and stay grounded.
Absolutely.
to
Yo,
what's going
Rob.
on.
Absolutely.
Isn't that it's funny that you would say that because we talk about that a lot about the young artists that's coming up, and there's I think like we have like different levels of tolerance for for new music. Like I think Rob is very much a purist, like boom bap. I love boom bap,
Mhm.
but I've also gotten to the point where I think as a result of my children, I've used them to kind of keep my ears young. And
Right.
they feed me music, and some of it I like, some of it I'm like, nah, it's not, it's
Right.
not for me. But I don't turn any of it away because I feel like the moment I turn it away,
Yeah.
lost.
You
I'm
get
out of touch
lost.
with what's going on, what the sound is.
You get
It's
lost,
true.
man.
And
it's
me and
good to
effects
keep
do the same thing. We bounce off each other. Like,
That's
I
right.
give effects his credit for always having his ear to the street. He's technically the A&R to everything I do. You know what I mean? He's the one that get me on my be on my heels about even what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and he never bites his tongue when it's time to criticize. So and I
There you
appreciate him
go.
for that.
If it's whack, it's whack,
So
right?
we'll go to war about certain things with music, but there's a brotherhood behind it. It's
Right.
never
behind closed,
disrespectful. It's,
behind closed doors, man, you would think it's like some type of, government things going on. Like we just like, if they had put the camera on us, you'd be like, yo, somebody about to push the button.
Something about to go down, right?
No, but something
Yeah.
that shows the level of
Gotcha.
investment
Yes,
and
sir.
being receptive to each other to give each other that feedback. That's the only way you're gonna grow. Just going back to like even the piece around the hip hop purists, you hear a lot of people talking about how there's been deterioration in hip hop. Like lyricists lyricists are long gone. There's very few artists that are still considered to be lyrical. DJs and effects. I listen to some of your stuff. I'm happy to say you still blending. I love that about DJs that still do blends.
man, yeah.
What's your opinion on when people have that type of commentary or have those feelings in correlation to, I guess, like the evolution of music? Because once upon a time, you had to actually be able to sit in front of a SP12 or MPC before the Fruity Loops. You had to actually be nice on Technique 1200s before there was a Serato. So I'm wondering, like, what's your opinion of these things? Do you feel like that's devalued, people's contribution to production, or devalue people's contribution to DJing?
Okay. I'm just gonna say it like this, right? So me and B, we always talk about this all the time. So
We do.
basically, when it comes down to
very
hip
good
hop,
question.
when it comes down to hip hop, I always say that what we talking about now been going on since 1979, and I'm gonna show you, right? So basically, like I remember it from the parks, right? The park jams and things like that. Once hip hop got its representation through that song, and you know the song that we all talking about, you know what I'm saying? The Sugar Hill song.
Rapper's Delight, baby.
The Rapper's Delight. That was hip hop's introduction.
That was their commercial success, right? You right.
So,
Right.
but with that song came the first ghostwriter, the first thievery.
Talk about it.
So we say to be a purist, you can't have somebody to write for you. Here we go. Right. We got a song. Somebody written. That's not the rapper. Okay, let's move forward. We're gonna move forward. Now hip hop is really making records. There's time structure. Who's in there assisting the artists in making music?
Right.
So it's appointment. Here we go again. Here we go with that assist. Right? So it always go up, take a dip, go up, take a dip, go up, take a dip. And now you talking about the equipment. Everybody didn't start off with the SP12s and the MP. See, that's the 90s. What happened to the Tito 808s, the Tito 909s?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't give credit to Larry Smith, producing Curtis Blow.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? The 80s producers. Right away, when we talk about hip hop, we go directly into the 90s with the MP. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
and forget people was making tapes, pause button, record tapes too, son.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Exactly.
That was the first style of making shit together. We paused that, add on, and pause that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And like Effect said, there's so much legendary hip hop that came out of the 80s that for some reason, I mean, we've tagged the 90s as the golden era.
Golden era. Yeah.
I'm blessed to say I made my name in that era, but growing up, I studied hip hop from the 80s to be able to do what I did in the 90s. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was a fan of Curtis Blow's work. I was a fan of fucking Larry Smith, producer for Run DMC Houdini, Jazzy J, produced for T-La Rock, produced for LL, like Rick Rubin. I studied all that shit. Beastie Boys. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like Effect said, they were using TR-808s and drum machines. That was the introduction of the 808 that people still use to this day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we can't disregard the contributions of hip hop in the 80s because it still shapes hip hop to this day.
Yeah. Now what we was doing though, as we was moving forward, we was making kids. So the thing is, what we kind of like failed to do, and I would say this is a responsibility of the whole entire village. We didn't put the babies on our lap, and you know, get that feel, get that touch. You know what I'm saying? We kept them doing it like, here, you sit down, you know, doing whatever. So now when they grow up, the disconnect is there. So now you have Fruity Loops. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because as you leave kids by themselves, they're gonna get into things.
Yeah, they gonna.
It was just how we was.
They gonna figure it out.
Yeah, they was just how we was. You know what I'm saying? Like I broke my mom's couple of record players.
Oh, you DJing on the belt drive?
What? On the Yo, I broke the belt. I broke the needles. The arm wasn't good. Oh, I tore that thing up. I got my behind what?
That's how you learn, though.
That's how you learn. So it's the same thing with the newer generation. Leave them by themselves. They're gonna get into things. And remember the first music program was Cakewalk.
Yeah.
So you know they was in there studying that.
Right.
And then when 40 Loops came, they just like, hey, this is easier.
Yeah.
Jump on that.
With that Innuendo also, right? Cakewalks, Innuendo.
Innuendos and It was a bunch of them.
Hmm?
Yeah,
It
there's
was
a
a
lot of different production softwares now. Logic, fucking.
Let me ask you,
Uh,
and either one of y'all can take, but it's more directed to Paul.
mm-hmm.
Talk about the importance of investing in yourself. I heard you mention that you
Man.
kind of took the bull by the horns based on whatever environment. You see, you know what? Let me focus on me. Talk about that a little.
Yeah. Going back to, just from the production standpoint, I invested in my production gear. I started with Smith Wesson album on the SP12, not even 1200, the SP12 with the turbo, with the external hard drive, just to save,
Wow.
what I'm saying, my beats and my sounds. You could literally use the 12 and had a drum machine, samples and everything in the beat
Right.
in the machine and turn the machine off and then turn it back on. It'll still be there. You know what I'm saying? That's how
Right.
the 12 was. Then I got the 1200. Then as I was making more money, I got the MPC. But I didn't start using the MPC. Primo was one of the first ones I seen using MPC. He's using the MPC 60 to 62. I
Right.
started using it around the time that the 2000 and the 3000 came out because
Right.
I was just an
You had to
SP1200
explain.
guy.
You had to really explain with that, that MP60. A lot of people don't know that's just like compared to like the 3000. You gotta get a little kind of
Oh
technical.
yeah, but
Yeah.
like when I graduated to using more technology as it came to me, because the 1200 you only had 10 seconds of sample time, and then you had to get what's called a rack mount sampler like a Kai S950 or a Kai
Mhm.
1000 to
Right.
use the more extensive samples and then arrange your music around that and use
Right.
the SP1200 as a master trigger to program the drums with the sampler, with the rack sampler. But then with the MPC, you have more sample time, you have more layers of how you could arrange sounds in the machine from drums to music and have it
Right.
all tracked out. So that's
Right.
when I really got into the 2000 and 3000. And of course, with the SP1200 being 10 seconds of sample time, it was only 16-bit. So the sound quality, even if you're taking it from a recording like a record and
Mhm.
sampling, it wasn't as clean.
Yeah.
And you started using the MPC technology by Lynn. I don't know if his last name is Lynn Rogers, Lynn
Lim
something.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes, Slim
Yeah.
Rogers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What I mean, when he created that technology, the sonics of sampling was cleaner, and that's how the MPC was able to graduate from all those different versions all throughout the years within the hip hop culture and be a constant choice of hardware before the software game came in, before people started using computer programs to make
See
beats.
now, I started from the ASR 10
Mm.
keyboard.
Shout out to RZA. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So and have. So you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
And Havoc, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a different. I started out with that like a machine that does all in one. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Sample, filters, the drums, and everything like that. So
Yeah.
So to finish your question real quick, from the production standpoint, I would always invest in myself as the technology changed. But then
Right.
from the business standpoint, after like that, like I mentioned earlier, the first 5 years of producing records with Duck Down and then starting to move into doing more business oriented work with my production, I was never afraid to say I'm gonna put things out independently. My first uh, producer album was a project I did called Baby Paul Underground Veteran, and I did a licensing deal with Fat Beats, and I
Come on.
took a compilation of all my songs that I had to my career at that time and put it on a compilation and released it and distributed it. I paid for the marketing myself in partnership with Fat Beats.
There you go.
Then I did a version of my instrumental album called Throwback City back in 2007. Did another
You was
licensing deal.
independent before independent was independent.
Before
Independent.
Independent was
Yeah,
popular.
yeah. Before it was popular, I
Yeah.
saw it coming. I actually had deals with Baby Grand Records. I had deals with Universal Republic, and this is
Koch.
before Tune. But this is before TuneCore came about as a distribution platform for iTunes. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Like I had partnerships with these companies and projects I was trying to do with these companies before it was as cool as it is now to be independent. Effects used to make fun of me. I gotta bring this up. This is culture talk. He used to be like, "Yo, why be independent, man? Let a company pay for your marketing. Go to a major. Stop trying to be independent."
He hit you
His
hard.
argument back then, his argument back then
Effects got that look on his face like, here we go.
This argument back then was artists don't know how to do business by themselves. They can't be independent. And I understood what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know what you're doing, go to a label. Let them spend the money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because let's be honest, right? We want, like, I like Mariah Carey. We all love Mariah Carey's music. But let's just imagine the 5th album, she went totally independent.
I mean, it'd be different, but I guess if she already had the fan base, whatever,
she'd make her money.
You know what I'm saying?
The rollout won't be the same though.
The rollout won't be the same. The creativity ain't gonna be the same because you stress more. You doing it all. Yeah, think about it. Can you imagine? At that time, you talking about 2000. Let's say early 2003. She decided to do that. You mean to tell me she gonna buy mad CDs and she gonna be up pressing mad CDs?
Yo, FX is talking about independent. Like
independent. We're not even talking about distribution, digital distribution like it is now. We talking about early days of distribution. You know?
Yeah. Can you imagine her with CD towers
hand to hand?
Yo, but let me say this though. Let me say this though, because I forget who he's talking to, Rob, about this, and I was saying like the math in my head works real quick. So I'm thinking that, you know what? Would I rather sell 1 million copies on a major label, or would I rather sell 100,000 independently? And to me, that's a lot of that got to do with, you know, how you call it, like people want to be able to say, I went platinum, and how the illusion of what it is, but what you're gonna make on selling 1 million going platinum on a major versus 100,000 independent, you know, it's just a matter. Like I would take the 100,000 independent, but I see what you're saying, FX, because you get used to having that major machine behind you, you know, throwing in the marketing dollars, you know, going, you know, doing all that work at radio and all that stuff for you, getting you in rotation, getting your records played and all that. And I think in your defense also back then, to your credit, you had to have vision around that. You had to have vision. A lot of people didn't see it as a necessity.
And resources.
Vision,
yeah. And I'm just gonna say this too. It's the same thing like people that purchase homes and you got your properties and things like that, right? So if you got A1 credit, what you gonna do? A lot of times they take out a loan, right?
You ain't gonna spend
music business is nothing but it's the same thing. They give you money,
right? Property.
They give you money, right? It's about what you do with it. You know what I'm saying? You don't supposed to take the whole thing and then swan in it. Yeah. Can you imagine if they give you 500,000, right? So I look at it like this: it's a bank. Take the 500,000. You could take at least 250 or maybe 150. Put that in the IRA account.
There you go. See,
compound it.
Smart man right here, man.
Compound it. Just let it sit. You know what I'm saying?
And work with the other rest. Work with the rest.
And then Now I always say that you're gonna have extras and things like that. The extras is whatever. Now, if you don't recruit, there you go. You just pull that out here. Here you go.
Hand it all. That's right.
That's if you get legit accounting. That's a whole. That's a whole.
We ain't even gonna get into that. Oh my God.
But see. Then again, right now, all three of us right now, you don't have no middleman handling your money. So the same thing, you got to do. You really have to be on top of your own resources, your own game. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because this is your money. This is your business. You know what I'm saying?
It is your business. There you go.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
What were you going to say? You was about to say something.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say.
That's a good point.
Everybody always sees the finished product of everything, but they don't know, you know, like there's a lot of times you don't get the story in terms of what the process was and how rough it was for people to get to that point. And there's some people who are process oriented that really appreciate the process, and there are other people that's like, I ain't here for this. I want the success. Forget the other stuff. So I'm just interested in hearing from both of you guys. Like, tell me the what the process looked like for getting your first placement, not your first major song, but just your first placement where you was like, damn, I worked my ass off and now I'm on Joe Schmo single or song or whatever it was. What did that look like?
For me, it was producer Smith and Wesson's first album, The Shining. You know, like I was around the Beatminerz formed before that, you know, again, shout to Evil D and Mr. Wall, and I was involved with what was being done in Black Moon. I was in most of the sessions of making that album.
It's a classic
but
album.
I contributed ideas and records to sample and things like that, but I was never credited as a producer. I didn't physically make a beat and place it with them back then. So it didn't happen until Smith and Wesson when I did like Recognize and Home Sweet Home. And you know, the funny thing is some of those records, shout to Tech and Steel, were demos that I did, you know, like in home studios that ended up making the album, and then we cut it in a bigger studio and made it for the album. So for me, my first major placements would be officially Smith and Wesson's The Shining, which is a great way to come into hip hop. It's a classic hip hop album to this day.
The time
I'm appreciative and humble for that. And it was weird because it all started with me just playing some of my beats on a little radio in D&D Studios, being around that circle from already being a part and in the circle from the Black Moon album. And I was just playing some beats I made, and Still was like, yo, that's you? And I was like, yeah. He said, yo, that shit hot. Yo, let me get a copy of that. And then we built a bond to the point where he used to just come to my crib in Brooklyn to fuck with me on creating music and ideas that led to me being on that album. And even the album cover that was borrowed from my jazz album, Roy Ayers, He's Coming, which is a jazz album by Roy Ayers. The cover with the eye, you know what I'm saying? So Still borrowed that record from me from my collection and had a photographer recreate the image you see on the cover of the Smith West album. So for me, I feel like my contribution to that album is deeper than just the music. It was the vision of that record, you know, and my work on that record that made that album. You know what I'm saying? So
How did you find yourself in boot camp? Or that whole setting?
Well, it was really the Beatminerz because Evil D and Mr. Water Brothers, you know, Evil D is a DJ for Black Moon, and shout out to Chuck Chill Out. Chuck Chill Out was the one that helped break Black Moon with Who Got the Props. You know what I'm saying? And they only had a single deal with Nervous Records at the time. But when that record took off and it started charting not only in hip hop charts, it was charting on the R&B charts and the dance records charts. Because a lot of people don't know, Nervous Records was known for dance music before they got into hip hop.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they knew how to market it in a way to tap into these different charts, and that's what helped make that single in particular so big.
Right.
So, you know, they were just taking chances doing single deals, but it was so much of a demand for the music. It was like, yo, let's give these guys an album. So that's what made Black Moon make an album. And you know, it compounded into like, okay, Smith and Wesson's in the circle. Let's put them on. Helter Skelter's in the circle. Let's put them on. And eventually that's how I grew into boot camp. But my relationship with Walt, Mr. Walt, the brother of Evil D, is what brought me into the fold as far as Beatminerz and making a name for myself, producing records and being in the fold of the boot camp. You know what I'm saying? Because the boot camp was accepted from Buckshot to Smith and Wesson to Helter Skelter in that order.
Yeah, and you said you did Wipe Your Mouth, but you said you didn't like that record. I thought that record was hot. And I like,
you know what? No, I appreciate it. Reason why I didn't like Wipe Your Mouth is the subject matter. You know what I'm saying? I get it. You know, street niggas will be like, nah, that shit was hard, son. But when I made that beat, if you imagine that beat by itself before you heard that record, you would understand how I looked at it.
Yeah,
I was looking at it like this could be a single. Production wise, musically, it was a vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was
a vibe. It was a vibe that fit right along with Ain't Hard to Tell or certain Black Moon records. You know what I'm saying? Musically, and I used the same drums on that beat that was used on Ain't Hard to Tell. Shout out to Large Professor because he was one of my inspirations. So when I did the beat, I have a whole other vision of what this record could be on this album as a single. But then when they went into the whole dick riding and it's very explicit lyrically. I was like, oh, this ain't gonna be no single. This record ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? So that was my whole thing. Because again, I've always been competitive. I want that single, bro. I want to hit record too, man.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I love making great music, but I want to have that single. So niggas like, nah, that nigga makes some hot shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You did Partners in Crime also?
No. I didn't do Partners in Crime. I think Evil D did that one. I did on the first
Recognize
time
It?
I did Recognize, Home Sweet Home, and Wipe Your Mouth.
Okay.
And I collaborated on Bucktown. You know what I'm saying? Like that was like a Beatminerz collective record. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
That was
And
dope.
then I think Rich Black did One Time. You know, that's the one with the video where they recreated the concept of The Shining.
Yeah.
And then you know, Walt did Let's Get It On, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and you know, like E did some of the other joints, you know what I mean? So, you know, classic album, man.
Classic album. Your effects.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
What's the largest crowd you ever rocked and where?
Mm.
When I opened up for Kid Capri, it was that it was a club in the city called Club Spirit, and I'm talking about it was Ram, and you also had the voice of New York. He passed away.
Frank Jigger.
Jigger, yep.
Yeah, Frank Jigger.
Look at you on your history shot.
Yeah, man.
He was
he knew.
he was my MC. So it was just amazing. Skip to My New, Rayford Austin was in. It was star-studded, and the fact that of controlling everything, like it was mad people in there.
He was in the zone.
Oh yeah, I was definitely. I was just like,
Ain't nothing like a dope New York party, man. I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss that.
to get like a clap and a pat on the back from Kid, I was just like, okay, all right.
Yeah, son, the big homie that gave you, he gave you your
Yeah, off to the races. Like I'm you know, so you know, I think.
And if you want anyone to co-sign you, that's who you want to co-sign.
Oh yeah, of course.
Especially in New York.
Facts.
Yo,
Facts.
we had Ron G on and we had Doo-Wop on, and I think I asked both of them, what do you think helped transition mixtapes from being blend tapes to what DJing actually is now? Because there's a lot of DJs that's like critically acclaimed that people love, that my man, yo, they play a record, they hit a button, you hear the explosion, and then the next record come on. You don't hear no type of blending, nobody trying to do no mixing, none of that. So what led to that transition from
get him, Kev, get him effects, get him.
mixing records?
Let's go.
Just straight up and
That's
down.
a good question to ask.
Yo, let me hit that button, play that drop, and put the next record on. Because yo, Paris Hilton is a DJ now.
Oh,
Serato, man. I hate that Serato.
Let me tell you something. When you mention names like that, it's more of like a tastemaker, a personality. It's not necessarily the DJ skill.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that transition, I was right in the thick of it because of my family. Shout out to Comp Master C. That's my cousin. That's my first cousin. And things like that. So, like I said, I was doing heavy blending. Shout out to Buddha Barber, Ike Love, and on and things like that. So, the introduction of that actually came from, I had to give a shout out to Pudgy the Fat Bastard.
Shout out to Pudge.
Yeah, we have Pudgy on.
Yeah, Pudgy. Yeah. He's a good brother too, man.
He played a critical part because, see, you had Cup Master C, which is that's my family, that's my cousin. Then you had another DJ by the name of Clue. Around the same time, they started making.
You got it ready as a prop right there, son. That's
Masters. You know what I'm saying? Masters. So oh man. So at first everybody was doing the traditional mixtape, which was the hottest song, a little bit of hip hop, with a little bit of blending.
Right.
That's the traditional mixtape formula, which was stamped by Kid Capri. Who else? Who Star Child? No, this is before. Yeah, Brucey B and things like that.
Right.
There was a formula.
Right.
Now when Ron G and everything, that's when like, you know, the blends. But I have to see, for me, I have to say Grandmaster Vic. He's I would say the father of the blends, because that's what he was doing. He was doing that since 85, 84.
Right.
Blends. You know what I'm saying?
Because that's what you would do to keep a party rocking. You had to know the beat per minute for song that just to mosey on in and keep that party going. There was no
everybody in the boroughs, and all the 5 boroughs, they had their niche. You know what I'm saying? R.I.P. to Rob Swift from Brooklyn and things like that. You had the original Rob Swift. They got a mural right there on, I think, what's that, Mother Gaston's? And they used to have like a store, and they had Rob Swift mural right there. But I don't know if it's there no more. But not to veer off, but that was the traditional mixtape. When you like whatever the R&B record is, the blends, a little bit of the rap, that was that. Right. Now, when these two got into it, what happened, again, you had certain people that would be like, yo, here.
Here's my new record, play.
Put my joint on there.
Yeah. So this is how it would go, right? You would have a brand new artist with the hot rapper at the time. So what you would do, instead of saying the hot new rapper, you would say the hot rapper featuring, you flip the credit around. Mm-hmm. If that kind of like makes sense.
Yeah, I get where you're on.
Then now you got the same trajectory with a few brand new songs, and that's what took it off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
People just like to make a blend.
I don't want to. And the crazy part about it is, see, I got a lot of stories about that because, like I said, I was in the thick of it. I'm like, trust me, I was in the thick of it.
Heavy in the mixtape. Like, that's how we knew. That's how we
to the point when Cutmaster C and DJ Clue had that monumental beef at the time, I was right there because I knew both sides.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If it all kind of makes sense. And it also go back to high school too. You had Francis Lewis, Hillcrest, Jamaica, and Jackson. Those were the schools that was like, because that's where all the crews went to.
Right.
Your Desert Storms, you know what I'm saying? And then us, and it started getting kind of, you know, how my man in Rec would say, it was getting a little spooky out there. Yeah, you know, salute to my guy, man, in Rec. But you know, and this the art of just getting records. This started getting crazy. I could share this. Your mail carriers, they played a very essential role on how you get a lot of exclusives. Baby mamas played a real.
Talk about it, man. That's the Underground Railroad right there, bro.
I keep telling my cousin now. I was like, yo, we need to come out with the, you know, the documentary. The whole shebang, because I'm telling you, like no, R.I.P. to Biggie, but when Biggie was alive, and we going to B Street Records.
He said B Street. Wow.
He used to send soldiers and like, yo, they coming to get. They just leaked the what?
Wow, yeah. It's a wrap. It's a wrap now.
Say less.
You
know,
don't go no further. We know. You understand that gesture right there, son.
Took it
Yeah.
back. Yo, Paul, let
Yeah.
me ask you, man, what was it like being a fly on the wall and power play when you have opportunity to intern and you're around the G Raps and Kims and KRS and I want to bring that back, talking about the process. Like, you had the opportunity to see some of the greatest artists of all time recording process.
That's what made me who I am.
Right.
You know, we want to talk about training grounds. Shout out to Lost Professor. Shout out to Dr. Butcher. My training grounds was watching the following albums being made in the studio. Are y'all ready?
All of these is classics. This is let the audience know in advance.
Let the rhythm hit him. Eric B. and Rakim. Blueprint, KRS-One.
KRS-One. Wow.
Wanted Dead or Alive, Cool G Rap. Those are just the 3 albums I'm gonna name that were my training ground that makes me who I am to this fucking day.
Salute to you, bro.
I was just talking to my best friend Prestige.
Salute to you, man. To be around that energy. To be around that energy and watch that take place right at the epicenter when they were right in the niche of their careers, doing what they were doing. Shit, that inspires me just listening to you say that right now. So.
That's 88 to 89.
Right, that's what I mean.
To 90. That whole time frame. I'm walking the streets when Big Daddy Kane and Biz are dropping new records and Shantae's popping, and I'm going to the studio hearing G Rap and Polo make Wanted Dead or Alive. Shout out to Lost Professor. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching Eric Rakim making records like Ghetto and fucking Let the Rhythm Hit Him. You know what I'm saying? Wow. And fucking what was that one joint he used? The Chick record where he used the green
Mahogany
classic.
Mahogany.
Yes, I was there.
KRS-One,
the original Blueprint rap album. No disrespect to Jay-Z, but the original Blueprint rap album, KRS-One.
Yeah, now let's put that on ice. And he said, "Yeah, you done been it."
Lost Professor.
And I want to say this, and I also gotta say, you know, that was also my training grounds as well. I also had the opportunity to intern at the legendary, you know, the studio as well. The funny part about it is, this is at the time. Now it's on with the mixtapes, but they just let them, you know what I'm saying? Like, if y'all kind of know what I'm getting at, I had, not in hard to tell. What was the one? The first one I was on Zebra Head.
Halftime.
Halftime.
The halftime show. And then one time.
One time for you, yeah.
Oh, represent.
Yeah. Yes. Shout out to, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm just going to leave it right there. I'm just going to leave it right there.
He was getting his hands on those records.
After a couple of days, you know what I'm saying? I just stopped going.
Yo. Just to close the conversation.
That's all the facts need. I'm good.
Just to close the conversation on those rap albums, I'll just point out with like how special, like, to me, I feel like Cool G Rap is probably the most underrated lyricist in hip hop culture.
Yeah,
being around watching him make that album. Oh, people mention him, but the culture doesn't embrace him in the same way. Come on, what did Jay-Z say on that song Encore? He said, like, G Rap in his prime. Like, you know, he recognized that. You know what I'm saying? I personally feel the next generation of MCs was inspired by Rakim and Cool G Rap.
I agree.
Yeah.
And Kane, you gotta put Kane.
The Nas's, the AZs, the Nas's, the Pun, you know what I mean? I'm specifically talking about, you know, like that next generation of lyricists. Kane absolutely influential. Kane influenced people like Jay-Z. But what I'm saying is, lyrically, you hear it. You hear it. Rakim, Cool G Rap, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro. And I was just talking to one of my good friends, Prestige, formerly of Bad Boy Hitman Producers, like not even 2-3 days ago about this. And I was like telling him how I was in the studio when G Rap was making Talk Like Sex.
Oh,
he used a Still Johnson sample. Yeah, when he used the Sil Johnson sample, King T made a hit record called "Play at Your Own Risk" later
It's at your own risk.
on the West Coast. Yeah, but G-Rap, dog, just the way that beat was put together. If you listen to it tonight on fucking YouTube, you'll be like, wow, like between the loop, the drum programming,
Yeah.
the vocal chops, that was ahead of his time for that year, bro.
Who did that? Large Pro did that?
Lost Professor.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yo, he was a dude for both times, man.
yeah.
I watched Lost Professor make some of the most incredible records I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
man.
saying? And we're talking about pre-Illmatic, pre-main source.
Yeah.
You know
And
what
the
I'm
crazy
saying?
thing about it is with Large Professor, he was going to Power Play, but also he was coming to 1212 in Jamaica, in Union Hall Street.
Yep. Rest in peace,
RIP to
Paul C.
Paul C. You know.
Yep.
I got a 2-part question. We had Steel on here, and my partner asked him, "What the fuck does LaFleur LaFly mean?" Right?
LaFleur LaFly.
He started, he laughed out so loud, like y'all niggas.
I know he did because I'm laughing because I what was his answer? You gotta tell me his answer. And I'm gonna tell you something.
He said it's the fly shit. He was like,
He
it's
said
just
it's
like
the
the
fly
fly.
shit. Nigga took
fly
an
shit,
inhale.
like-
He said, "That nigga P, son. He come up with some crazy shit." And he said, "Really? It just means some
Your
fly
audio. You muted. You muted, I think. But yeah, LaFleur LaFly Skoshka.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still muted.
Yeah, you still muted. You gotta unmute.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he was just like, he said, "Yo, nigga P can make up some."
I'm gonna have to put the audio on because I lost the Bluetooth. Give me 1 second, y'all.
All right. Yeah, LaFleur LaFly.
I'm gonna sign out and sign back in. All right.
All right.
Keep talking effects for a second. I'll be right back.
Yo, he bugged out when we mentioned that to him. He was like, "Y'all niggas is crazy. Like, where the fuck did that come from?" Nah, that's a memorable. Like, no one is ever taking a phrase or a saying, made it its own, and make it into what it became to be. And I understand.
Yeah, I'm
that
back.
Paul, that Paul put, he did that beat. My reason for asking that, you can build on you making that song, but melodically and sonically, what vibe do you search for when you're composing or putting the track together?
Right. I know I got cut off, so I just want to answer that question about the name. Like, rest in peace, Sean P, aka Rucker Helter Skelter. He came up with that name, and back then, Ruck was just a different dude, man. He was just a different dude, man.
I can tell, yo.
He's a street nigga, but he was a comedian. Everything. Imagine a street nigga that is serious and will bust your ass, but he's funny as fuck. That's Sean Price. A lot of things he didn't take seriously because he had his own way of looking at things, his own lingo. You know what I'm saying? So if you notice in the intro of the record, he just says that. He's freestyling that. Literally on the record, and we just kept it. He said the name of this shit here is LaFleur LaFly Skoshka, the Fab Five. No one knew what that shit meant. No one questioned it. They just let it go.
Yo, and then the
shit became a part of history.
Yo, and the beat.
It's not a language. You can't translate that. You can't look that shit up.
Yeah,
that's just what it is.
That's why I asked Bill.
That's why you asked him.
You know what I'm saying? And as far as the production, I sampled the jazz record by a group named The Catalyst, and I love the keyboard melody in there. Okay. And that was the era of when you used to chop samples and filter out the bass line on the Akai S950. A technique that was used on a lot of hip hop records, even like Pete Rock and so on. You know what I mean? DITC. So I basically used the loop. I programmed the bass line, filtered the bass line, programmed the bass line, separated it on 2 different tracks. The drum beat, believe it or not, I took the snare from James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud.
Really?
Wow. See?
Yeah.
This
believe
is
it or
what
not.
I like.
And I did it on the SP12. Here's the funny story. I'm going to be quick about this. So I did it on the SP12. Remember I said I had the 12, not even a 1200 back then.
Right.
And I did it at home, and that shit was knocking. The frequencies of the snares, the way I've truncated the drums, crazy. But then they was like, yo, we need you to track this in the studio. The fucking files in the machine got deleted by accident.
Wow.
I had to redo everything in the studio physically on a 1200 because I couldn't bring my machine to the studio
Yeah.
with the original way I made the beat and put it
Right.
on a tape for them to hear it.
Right.
I knew all the samples I used, so I just redid it.
Right.
But that's why when I mix the record, the frequency of the snare may not sound as recognizable to your ears when you listen to that James Brown break.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Because
Right.
y'all not gonna hear it the way I'm hearing it. You know what I
And
mean?
that's the reason why I asked you, what do you search for? Because even in songs like Understand
Mhm.
and Let Your Brain Blow, I'm
Mm.
hearing other shit. I hear the boom bap in there.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what the fuck is that?
All of those records were jazz records I sampled, and I was a
Ah,
student. I was a
right,
student of Tribe and Pete Rock back then.
right. And they were
But
always
I wanted to
doing that.
find original records. I
Right.
didn't want to copy what they did or flip something they already used.
That's a
I
fact.
wanted to find my own direction. So for Let the Brains Blow, I used a Johnny Pate sample. It was jazz, but it was like bossa nova type jazz. You know what I'm saying? And I just heard that part with the little string hit, and I
Yeah.
used it. And it's so funny because Jermaine Dupri did some remix for like one of them R&B niggas back then, and he took the sample from my record to put it in there. You know what I'm saying? And I peeped that shit. You know what I mean? And Kanye sampled something early in his career he did for an underground artist in Chicago, where he sampled a Fleur Fly and he used my drums, and I
Yeah.
peeped that shit too. But
Yeah.
I can only catch that because I made it.
You made it. That's your
You see what I'm saying?
that's your
Yeah.
creativity. That's right.
But yeah, the Johnny Prate, I use a jazz sample, a bossa nova sample, and then what was the other record you mentioned? Understand. That was a
Understand.
weird like alternative, another jazz record. You know, it's so weird. Like some of my core fans for years, they kept asking me, "What did you sample for that record?" I'm looking for it. That shit crazy, right? And the drums was by a group called Whatnots. It's the same drums that was used on Bucktown, same drums that was used on a record called Hey Girl, that Lost Professor produced for Apache, right?
Uh,
But I used the original record and I
right.
programmed it. And then I borrowed a sample I did from Pete Rock. You know that remix he did for House of Pain?
Jump
Yeah.
around.
Jump Around remix.
Mhm.
He had a vocal sample from a record on Stax where it kept repeating that little voice that eat that, not. You know what I'm saying? You hear that little vocal sample in the background?
Yeah.
I took the 45 of the original record that he used and I programmed that little vocal snippet. It was kind of like a subliminal hint. Like, yeah, I'm taking your shit and flipping it. You know what I'm saying? And I put that in the background on that record. So
Yo,
that explains those records.
You're a
so
fucking
what
genius.
what made you part ways with Duck Down? Because yo, you got like that
Well, it was
right
a
there.
combination of reasons. I'm glad you asked. With Duck Down in particular, I did the last two projects I did was the boot camp album, The Chosen Few, you know, the ones where they wearing the jerseys.
Mhm.
And then I think For the People was another boot camp album. And then Smith and Wesson's um other album when they changed their names because they were getting
Cocoa
sued by the
Brothers.
Smith and Wesson gun company. They changed their name to Cocoa Brothers.
Cocoa Brothers. Rude
So
Awakening, I think was that.
yeah, this was around 98, 99. Those are the last times I worked with them. I think the main reason for me was I didn't agree with the fact that they were taking me Ian Walt for granted, meaning that they will always call us to do production on their albums,
Mhm.
but the rate never changed. So whatever they priced, you know, to work on two albums ago, when they got another budget, they
Stay
want to pay
right
us the same rate. And I just felt like we're doing the bulk of the work on all your albums. You know, respect us. Open up them budgets, bro.
there.
So let me ask you
Give us
this.
co-executive producer rights. We ain't never get none of that. They were treating us just like work for hire. And I got tired of that.
Let me
You know
ask you
what I'm saying?
this:
Yeah.
did they have the means? Because I just always assumed that Duck Down was a smaller independent
tell you
label, but they
something.
had major budgets.
Let me tell you something. Duck Down partnered with Priority off the
Yeah, I remember.
demos I did for Helter Skelter. You know what I'm saying? I demoed Let the Brains Blow. It was a white label before they did the deal with Priority. I never said this to anybody before. That was a white label. The reason why I have 5 records on Helter Skelter's Nocturnal album, that was their thank you. That was them saying, you know what? You really helped us put us in this position. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
we
give you a
all
lot of work on this album.
okay.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And So I demoed Let the Brains Blow. I demoed another song called Soldiers Gone Psycho. Those two songs made the album. Everything else was new. You know what I'm saying? La Fleur La Fly was kind of an accident, not the record, but the way it took off. It's so funny because I'm working with Moni Love and she told me a story recently that I never knew. Shout out to Evil D. He was on Hot 97 at the time. So they put a record out called Blah. They had a video for it. I don't know if y'all remember that record. It's by another producer, not even in the Beatminerz.
Yes,
that Helter Skelter, did the record with, and they made that the A side. They spent the money on that video. You know what I'm saying? It didn't take off. Then what happened was when they did the 12-inch, my song was already the B side. You know what I'm saying? My La Fleur La Fly was a B side. You know what I'm saying? Blah was the A side. And certain people up at Hot 97, they were discovering the record. Moni was like, yo, when E was playing it, she was like, yo, what's that record? And he said, oh, this is Helter Skelter's record my man Baby Paul did. She was like, I need that instrumental from the computer so I could make it a music bed. So when I go on the air, I could talk on over it.
Wow.
So she did that. Then Angie Martinez heard it. Like, yo, what's that you talking over? Oh, it's La Fleur. This Helter Skelter record. You know what I'm saying? So she took it out the computer, started talking over it. Then when Angie was doing the Battle of the Beasts on Hot 97, she snuck that in one of their Battle of the Beasts one night and it won.
Yeah.
So even though Evil D was on the radio at the time on Hot 97, the personality started supporting that record and it kind of got everyone at Hot 97 to start flanking to support the record. When that happened, that's when it was like, oh shit, we gotta put this out. We gotta shoot a video.
Yeah.
So they shot the video for La Fleur La Fly. And if you notice, it's a small budget, but the way they did the concept, they did it just in a film studio, no real production.
Just
they just came up with the concept of like a 5 Heartbeats, but they did it as a spoof. The rest of the work was just the camera angles, like the solo shots mixed in with the group shots.
Yeah.
And that was the video.
That record just gives the vibe of, like, to me, it's like 80s hip hop, feel good hip hop. And I think that's why it took off. So you told us one of the cons of being sort of like in-house production. What's a pro of being an in-house
pro
producer?
was being called on to get a lot of work. We were to boot camp what RZA was to Wu-Tang. You know what I'm saying? We developed the artists. Then when they had budgets, we produced the artists. So the first 3 albums coming out of the collective, from Black Moon to Smith & Wesson to Helter Skelter, was all produced by me, Evil D, and Mr. Walt. A few contributions externally, like I think E. Swift from the Alcoholics.
Yeah.
He produced another song for Helter Skelter. Then my dude, Sean, gosh, I forgot his producer name. He produced for the Alcoholics. Sean J. Period.
Okay.
He produced like 1 or 2 tracks on that Helter Skelter album because he and I became friends. He was from Brooklyn. We became real good friends, and he would bring me to the studio while he was working with Artifacts.
Right.
And he was like, "Yo, play them some shit," and that's how I got the Ultimate. Because he brought me around the Artifacts, and in exchange, I brought him around Helter Skelter. So I got on the Artifacts album. He got on Helter Skelter's album.
Good networking. Like that.
Yeah, niggas don't do that no more.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because everybody want to save it for themselves.
Yeah, everybody in hip hop knew each other. Beatminerz, DITC, Tribe, Large, Pete. We all knew each other once we came into the game. We were all peers. Yeah. Some of us were more friends than others. Diamond D, Buck Wild, Lord Finesse. We all knew each other. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to Buck Wild, like Sean J. Period, he and I had a very good friendship at one time. We're still cool, but everybody's just busy doing them these days. But we would tell each other who's working on what, who's in the studio. Yo, go play some beats for such. They in the studio right now. That kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it
was a great time, man.
I had asked we had Heat Makers on.
Right.
And I was like, yo, what's tell me an underrated producer who don't get their credit. And he said, I think he said Buck Wild. And I was like,
I agree.
Yeah, but that's hard for me because to me, Buck Wild is dope. I don't see Buck Wild as being underrated. So
yeah, but he come from that camp where all them other guys, not that they outshine him, But you know, you hear Finesse, you hear Diamond D, you hear Showbiz.
Right.
What came later, listen, a little bit later on.
Right. And then also Diamond D, he was a producer and an artist. So his cachet is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then the other thing is producer wise, Buck Wild not only did stuff with DITC, he was quietly a part of Bad Boys movement. He produced
I Got a Story to Tell.
Yeah. He got Story to Tell. He produced Whoa for Black Rob, which is a classic.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And he's been working like me, just under the trenches, but working ever since. He a lot of times he pops up on the same records I do. He's on AZ's current album. You know what I'm saying?
He's
so
dope.
Like it's like we have a lot of respect for each other. We keep in touch. Sometimes I hit him, you know, like and just tell him, you know, what's up, salute, keep up the great work, or I congratulate him on a record I came across that he did that came out and I love it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe I put Buck in the '90s era right along with some of the other greats that are recognized, like a Premier, like a Lost Professor, like a Q-Tip.
Yeah, I've always thought he was.
So he has his contributions are balanced. He has records that's respected on the underground, but he also has some mainstream hit records you cannot deny.
Always. Yo,
remember Master IC, Mike Geronimo?
Of course.
Come on, son. Yeah. That record is incredible. You could play that shit right now and you'll catch a vibe.
Yo, I got that as one of my favorite underrated albums. That and I like Ghetto Millionaire, Royal Flush album. Those was dope.
Yeah, Shout the Flush. It's my nigga. We have a record out called Largest Borough with him and another OG homie named Isaiah from Queens that's out right now. You go check that out. It's real dope. There's a video for it too.
What do you think prevented Duck Down from breaking bread? Because the formula was there. Aside, we know greed is always a fact.
You just said it, greed. You got to remember, at this time, Duck Down was management, and not for me, but like for all the artists, and they were the label. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So once they got that deal of Priority, they were a major independent. They were right up there with anybody in the market. The only other label that independently that was picked up by our Priority, as y'all know, was No Limit, if you remember.
Yeah.
So Brian Turner, y'all remember the Ice Cube story, right? He did the partnership with Duck Down. He was funding those albums that we worked on, and when supposedly they weren't recouping what they were spending against what they were making, because Duck Down had offices on 18th Street at the time, between 5th and 6th. They were right up the block from Rockefeller Records. You know what I'm saying? At that time in the 90s, in their own plush offices, so they were making money. But I guess everyone can questionably say none of Duck Down's albums certified gold. I know better, but unlike Wu-Tang, you can't say it's not on public knowledge or public record that those albums certified gold. So the perception is they're not a successful label. So after I think a 2-year time frame, you know, Priority pulled out of their partnership with Duck Down, and I remembered around that time frame, Drew was like, "Yeah, man, you know, it's over." You know, like he was a little depressed and upset, and they had to close the offices in the Manhattan, the whole shit, and just start over. And then he partnered with Rob at Cornerstone, doing a lot of marketing, and he was able to find ways to keep the label alive. From that time, it was around the time I pulled out, so I don't know where they went, business structure, where they set up their offices or anything after that. And then the years later, you saw the new cats come in the game that they got behind, like Sky Zoo, Static Selector. Let's go.
I like Sky Zoo too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I just did a record with Sky Zoo that's out right now, Moni Love joint called.
Yo, I feel like they kind of laid the groundwork though for like a Raucous. Like they were like the
absolutely
baby and show Raucous.
Absolutely.
Speaking of
Raucous, and I've done business with Raucous too.
let me ask Effect. Yo, Effect. Who are some of the artists that you DJ for that was a great experience?
Okay. I did a mixtape with AZ. We did Last of a Dying Breed Part 1, Part 2. Graph mixtape.
I like Graph.
Graph's fire.
My God, Flush.
Okay, shout out to Flush.
You know what I'm saying? Me and Mike Geronimo, we were supposed to do some, some stuff, but everybody's time got a little bit, conflicted and things like that. Um, I did little things with Cheeks, of course.
Okay, you kept it Queens, Q Borough.
Queens, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is, I just keep my sources where, reach where I know it can really happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yo, I feel like that first Mike Geronimo album, The Natural, I was so disappointed when he put out Vendetta, because I'm like, I don't know if it was Irv getting close with Puff and selling him on, yo, you could be this huge commercial artist, but that first album,
Yeah.
with all them songs on there, that The Natural was just like,
You know what that was? It was pressure. It's kind of like what Nas went through with Illmatic to
it was
the
written.
next album,
Okay.
where they brought in the track masters and they started making more commercially viable records.
Yeah.
Because with that second album, one of my good friends, Prestige, he produced that one song with Puff.
Nothing moves but the money.
You know,
Yeah.
I always love that sample, but I understand the commercial approach compared to the first album. You dig what I'm
Right.
saying? And I think he fell under that same pressure as a dude from Queens, solo artist, critically acclaimed, but didn't really sell enough records. TVT was originally a label for, they made their money off of movie soundtracks and television's greatest hits. They licensed songs from TV shows and sold them as compilations and made a shit ton of money. Steve Gottlieb, the owner of the label, I know him. I remember when they accepted Blunt Recordings. You know what I'm saying? I was around for that. I have a whole other story that I ain't gonna waste your time with, but they did the deals with Mike Geronimo, Ja Rule when he was in the group, Cash Money Click.
Cash
You know
Click.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Irv was the A&R. You know what I'm saying? He got his A&R position from being Mike's DJ. Then he graduated to Def Jam, and the rest is his story.
Rest is history.
You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel Mike was under that same pressure that Nas was under with that second album that Nas did.
Yeah.
Just the difference is he was on Columbia, so when they put that bag behind it and he had a Lauryn Hill feature, it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, P, have you? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, have you ever worked on a full project with one artist?
It's so weird.
You and that artist, because I always ask this, and I speak about this a lot, because people like emailing they fucking tracks. I think music don't come out the way it should, but niggas is emailing shit versus you sitting there with the artist,
studio making it. And my answer is yes.
Knowing his temperament, know if the nigga like Skittles or whatever.
So y'all ready for this, fellas? Me doing that happened later in my career. It wasn't early in my career with the Duck Down stuff. It wasn't even after that when I worked on Now Stillmatic or worked with AZ. It took me being independent. I know we had that conversation earlier. Me taking the reins and understanding my position in the market and saying, I want to get behind a body of work by someone. I ended up working with an artist from Detroit named Super MC. He was known as a freestyle battle rapper. He was featured in 8 Mile, and we collaborated on, first we were just making records together, but then it organically formed a group concept called Crossroads. And I named it Crossroads because for me, I was at a crossroads in my career, like from going into focusing more on and being an independent label owner and focusing more on the business, like we talked about earlier, along with the producing. And I wanted to do full bodies of work. If I'm either producing a whole album with an artist or I play executive producer for the artist that I work with. I didn't want to just be the dude placing a beat on a record. Like
Right.
I want to have some kind of controlling factor for anything I put my name behind. You know what I'm saying? So we ended up doing 2 EPs actually. One's called X Amount, the other one's called The Road Less Travels Out. You know what I mean? Critically acclaimed, all of the media we did behind it, everyone always said the music was dope. I guess the comparable as far as the creative direction would be like Gangstar modern day, or like what Prime was, which was Royce and Primo. You know what I mean? Those are my comparables to allow you to get the picture of what me and him were doing as a collective.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
So,
shout out to M Rec. I saw on your interview with M Rec, you gave one of the most descriptive breakdowns in terms of how like royalties and things like that work. And I was wondering if you could kind of go into even a little bit more detail as it works,
sure.
because we see now what's coming up. You see the dude, Freddie P from Making the Band. You see Mace coming out. We've had a number of artists actually come on the podcast and talk about how they don't have their publishing or other issues that they have as it relates to royalties. But I don't think that people have a real clear understanding of how royalties work. And I definitely know for a fact a lot of people don't have an understanding in terms of how royalties work when it comes to streaming. So anything you can lend to that conversation, I think will be appreciated.
Sure. Well, I'll start with just my experience, and I'm gonna give you some references that allow you to get the picture. Like my whole career, starting with the Beatminerz to now, I signed with a publishing admin company. A publishing admin company is a little different than doing a co-pub deal. Co-pub deal is when, let's say, Universal or Sony comes in and they want to buy into your work for a term. Let's say it's 2 years, a year. They give you advance for that, whatever they feel you're worth based on what you have in the market and what they anticipate you're about to come out with in the market and it possibly doing well. They'll give you a few 100,000, 250,000, whatever. You know what I mean? It's all negotiable. And this was when co-pub deals was a big thing for writers and producers, especially 90s into early 2000s, right? I did an admin deal since day one, since Duck Down days. An admin deal, the company's called the Royalty Network. You can Google them. They have offices in New York and LA. I did an admin deal, which means that they administrate all of my career catalog, and their fee is like anywhere between 10 and 50%. When I first signed with them, it was 10%. But of course, as time grew by years later, you know, for the services they do, they started wanting a little more. So I agreed when I re-up for 15%. So every quarter, my entire career catalog, whatever it's doing internationally, my mechanical royalties, they administrate it and collect for me from here to overseas. And I get my payments based on, you know, the success of the catalog I have out. And now this is separate from BMI and ASCAP. This is separate from performance royalty income. You understand? And what Royalty Network also does within their means is help you get placements for licensing opportunities. I remember one time they placed one of my records in one of the NBA Jam games. Remember the NBA Jams video games? Back in the days, they placed the record I did in an NBA Jams game. So their business is to do licensing placements, you know, based on your catalog. If they can get it in film, television, sync licensing, video games, they do that.
Is that how Live It Up from Pharaoh Monch got on Friday, I think it was?
Actually, no. They collected after the fact, but Living It Up was because I produced a record for Pharaoh Monch that was supposed to be on that first album he did, Internal Affairs for Raucus. But once the album was pretty much done and my record was done, they loved the record, but they just felt like sonically it didn't sound like the creative direction of his album. So they was like, we're going to hold this record. We're not going to put it on the album. And then at that time, Raucus had a partnership with Priority. So when the Ice Cube soundtrack came about, which was distributed by Priority, and the movie was coming out, they was like, yo, send us some records you got. So Priority saying that to Raucus. So they submitted my record. And there's like, yo, we love this record. It's Pharaoh Monch, you know, rap legend, Raucus.
Right, absolutely.
They're going to put it on the soundtrack and in the movie. So you watch that movie right now, that scene where Day Day's talking to Miss Ho, and she's like, I got the John Blaze for you. My song is playing in the background. Nice. I still get paid for that. And it's on the soundtrack for that Next Friday soundtrack, and that's a gold soundtrack. So I got a gold record for that.
God bless you.
So shout out to Pharaoh Monch, and thank you to Raucus Records for licensing that record, because I make more money off of it on that soundtrack than I did on his album.
yo, FX, let me ask you this. We do a little segment on the podcast where we call it Gimme Five. And some time ago, we had a Gimme Five where it was, you got to give us 5 records guaranteed to rock a party. But here's the catch. Those 5 records, you don't know what the audience is. You don't know where the party is at. You just got to go into your 5 records to rock a party. What's those 5 records for you?
Oh, man.
That's a good question.
Let's
You
go.
got
Yo,
Miss.
You know what?
All right.
Look,
I'm taking notes too because I
You
want
could
to
be.
see my
You
shit.
don't know. You don't know. They just going to drop. You could be in Dubai. You could be in Spain. You could be in Harlem.
Cool. I'm glad you did that. So I'm going to no order.
No order.
Okay.
I'm taking notes, baby.
Jay-Z did it again.
Do
Do
it again, yeah.
Do it again, yeah.
Shout out to Rockwilder.
Put your hands where I can see.
I see that.
That Buster record is undeniable.
Yeah.
Still Dre.
Okay.
Still DRE.
Still DRE. I'm gonna go with Blackout.
Hold on. Blackout.
That's DMX, right?
No, microphone check. Method Man.
Rockwilder.
Yeah, Rockwilder.
Yeah. Okay.
I know about
that. Yeah,
that.
the Rockwilder. Yeah.
And
so that's 2 Rockwilder records. Okay, dope.
Yeah, 2 Rockwilder. Yeah. And we run this.
Really? I wouldn't have thought that.
And the reason why I said that because you said you could be anywhere in the world. So now I'm thinking. Now I'm thinking.
When you say rerun this, are you talking about that song?
We run this town.
Run this town. The Jay-Z record.
Yeah.
So interesting enough, you pick all hip hop. You pick all hip hop, no R&B or
not because you know why? Because you said anywhere in the world, and I already know once you go across that pond,
that's it. Those jump off.
Yeah, but when you talk about across the pond, like they just embrace. They have a better appreciation, I think, for hip hop and the culture than we have in the States.
Flex is right with that. He's right.
So now, hypothetically, I'm going to do the things you do, right? The Faith joint,
DJ version. DJ version.
That's some roller skate music right
Love
there.
Like This. Yeah.
Choice is yours. You know that whole thing. I'm gonna go into. Oh man, I go into a whole bag.
You about to give somebody their whole
the 702 with Nas,
you about to
Maya and Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? The Best of You. You know what I'm saying? Sleeping in my bed. You know, we can do it. Come on, we can do that.
I'm about to ask you for a tape, my nigga.
Yo, you gotta follow him. Yo, fellas, follow him on his live. Like he goes live on Instagram doing sets. He be killing it.
I watch.
And he's also on Bigo. You know, BIGO. That's an app where he goes live too. Yeah.
I watch. Yo, so Paul, Destroy and Rebuild. Now I play the track for you, or you in the studio and you hear. This is a story about the world's most notorious project, Queensbridge. What's your reaction? What's your response to that? Like, where's this going?
I'm gonna give it a quick backstory. Shout out to my man Prestige, formerly Bad Boy Hitman. It was his idea to submit beats to Nas. We both submitted beats to Lenny Nicholson, who was the A&R Sony Records at the time, was responsible for the success of A. Marie, and that's actually her husband now. And good friend of mine, we keep in touch. So I sent Lenny the music, didn't get called back right away. Like maybe months later, going into the summer, from the top of the year into the summer. Then I got the call back, and they was like, "Yo, Nas is using your record. We want you to come to the studio." So it was Times Square at Right Track Studios in Times Square. I'll never forget when I got the call to come and do the record. And lo and behold, Nas had already recorded most of the vocals because some of the music for that album he recorded in the Bahamas privately. You know what I'm saying? Just as an escape because all the stuff he's going through. Remember that? Yeah. That was the time with Jay and him was So he came back from the Bahamas and he hit the studio. So I came in there, didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was recorded, what wasn't. You know what I mean? I found out as I got there. So He's like, yeah, you know, I laid most of it, but I definitely want your input before I finish it. And then he played the record. So I'm hearing it. I'm like, this is dope. And then I hear him mentioning names and going at niggas. I said, oh man, this is a diss record. You know what I'm saying? So again, my ego kicked in. My ego kicked in. I'm sorry. I'm a Virgo. I can't help it. I'm like, I'm getting a Nas record. I want a single. I want to hit record. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? And I heard it was a diss record. I said, oh, that's not gonna happen. So I'm like, all right, let me figure this out. So I'm listening. Then he does the outro. He had already laid the outro. Bro, I can't even tell you what he was saying on the outro. I can't repeat it. So I was like, this is dope, but here's what I'm thinking. Just listening to your hook, why don't you like close it out where you speaking your issues to close it out on a level of a positive note, talking to these same people.
Right.
So he did that whole outro over based on my suggestion. Because if you listen to the outro after the raps and the hook is over, he's just talking for a few minutes.
Because he was leaning on Cormega and Nature heavy.
Oh my God, he was naming names. It was crazy, and I'm just like, first I'm like, this isn't gonna be a single. I hope I make the album. Then the other side of it is like, I gotta walk the streets with my name on this record now. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a Queens/Brooklyn nigga, so you know what I'm saying. Effects know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I gotta, cause trust me, when that record came out, I got calls immediately, bro, from hood niggas, fans alike. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, but what that got to do with you? That don't have nothing to do with you. You gotta
understand, it's music, man. When you're naming something, sometimes niggas can't differentiate. They think you endorsing that shit. Like, nigga,
understand something.
Especially when you got a name and you're in this business and you know certain niggas in the industry, and then your name is on a record where they're talking about some of these niggas. They're gonna say to you, well, why don't you say something? Why you let that go? You dig what I'm saying? So I have to play devil's advocate, you know. Two things I never mentioned in the interview that I want to say real quick, Effects. One is that at that time, rest in peace, Chris Lighty, he was the manager for Nas at that time when he was doing that album. And Chris Lighty almost wanted to pull the record. He was adamant about, yo, you can't put this out. Reason why Mobb Deep was also his clients.
Oh yeah, so that's right.
He's in a position where he's managing Mobb Deep and Nas at that time. And Nas has this record. So, and me and Lighty knew each other. We were cool. So it wasn't no beef with me. It was just the situation. And he was like, yo, we can't put this record out. But Nas was adamant, and Nas fought to keep the record on the album. Because I would have had no say. Y'all would have never heard it. It would have never hit the light of day. And all y'all would have known was, I did a record for Nas, but I didn't make the album. You think
I'm gonna tell you how monumental that song is. When I first got that album, I must have listened to that album quite a few times. And my lady was like, yo, every time that record came on, bro, Ninja, old lady pocketbook snatching car thief, to this day, she still, she like, yo, that's the track on Stillmatic right there. I'm like, wow.
To this day, shout to Nature, shout to Mega, you know, it's crazy because, you know, at different points in time, cats are their feelings, but thankfully we're all cool. You know what I'm saying? And it never got past that, you know, because they know it was business, it's a record, and it was dealt with years later between them and Nas, and their relationships.
Davis, I'm happy to see that. You know what I'm saying?
But at that time, it was just real crazy. It was just real crazy. You know what I mean? And I remember in that studio, Nas had security in that studio. Like I had to be patted down just to walk in to do my session. Damn. Because it was that tense of a time with everything that was going on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I remember when I mixed the record, I mixed the hell out of that record, and shout to Jungle. He was like, "Yo, as soon as I get a copy of this from the studio, I'm taking this shit right to the hood." He was taking it to Queensbridge.
Yo, the disrespect
for the niggas
crazy.
in Queensbridge. He's taking this right to the hood.
Yo, the disrespect.
You see the look on Effects' face because he already know what that meant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I was just gonna say, you know, when he was mentioning that about him getting the phone calls, when it comes down to Queens, you know, I love my borough, but I know
I love my borough too, man.
My borough could get a little petty. I'm just gonna say that. Yeah. I'm gonna say it's petty. It can get real petty real quick.
Yeah, real quick. You know what I'm saying? A lot of finger pointing and shit. And, you know, that's not what we here for. You know what I mean? So that was the first and last disc record I ever attached my name to. I always made a point to not be, into that. You know what I mean? I've been approached to do it again since then, and I turned it down.
Yo, so somebody roll up like, yo, I need you to produce a diss record for me?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna name names, but I get another phone call for this interview. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But
I'm not even gonna do it.
Always look for that single. So what makes it? Excuse me. What makes a chart-topping single?
So funny. I've always felt like.
Or is it just luck? Is it just a stroke of luck?
It's a combination of things. It's smart business. It's the situation with the label and the artist at the time and their budget. It's lightning in the bottle with the records they make. I feel like some hit records are manufactured and some hit records are just organically made by the people.
Right.
Earlier in hip hop, a lot of hit records is, to me, organically made by the people. There was no structured formula on a corporate level to have a machine just get behind a record. That happened over time.
Right.
The more corporate hip hop became, where major companies were spending money on these artists, the more strategic hit records became. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Can I interject a little bit?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
All right. So again, if you want to go back with history, that with that first record that was introduced to the world, that was Good Times.
That's right.
Which was a hit, right?
Right.
You go fast forward when Run DMC did Mary Mary, that was already a hit. When they used the Aerosmith Walk This Way, that was the hit. So in some cases, if you're gonna re-borrow a hit for hit, it's gonna be a hit.
It's gonna be
like what Bad Boy would do.
Exactly.
Hypnotized, Herb Alpert. More Money, More Problems, Diana Ross. You know what I'm saying? And so on and so on.
Well, yeah, I
even
feel
Juicy, for example.
That's a fact.
Rest in peace, Two.
Yeah. Yo, I feel like you kind of had a hit in the essence with Nas and AZ because that was Grammy nominated, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
How'd that come together?
It's so funny. That's another B side. Shout to Buck Wild, because the A side was "I'm Back."
That's my shit.
Remember?
Yeah.
That was the A side to that record, and that was a 12-inch. My record was the B side. If you watch the video to "I'm Back," it starts with a little kid before he comes out and he's walking the streets with AZ. My song's playing in the beginning. Then it goes into "I'm Back." Remember the era of the double videos?
Yeah.
My song starts that video. You know what I'm saying? But because they didn't want to spend money shooting a whole visual, they just put a snippet. And then "I'm Back" comes on. So it's crazy. Me and Buck Wild just have a back-to-back history on a lot of shit, bro. But yeah, I was the B-side to "I'm Back." But when that record was being recorded, it was being recorded at Sugar Hill Studios, since FX mentioned Sugar Hill. Shout out to Sugar Hill Gang and Sylvia and the whole Robinson family. That was recorded there in Jersey. And before we even finished the record, a half of a snippet of it was leaked to DJ Clue, and he played it around Super Bowl weekend that year on the radio. It's like, new shit, Nas and AZ, the essence. He played it on the radio. The record wasn't even done yet. So shout out to Clue for that. And then once I mixed the song, we turned it into it was the last song to make the album right before it came out in June that year. And the crazy shit is, I probably was among the last recording sessions of the Sugar Hill Studios in New Jersey, because it burned down right after that.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of history, right?
Yo, that's that. But I mean, that springboard to an amazing relationship, because you did a lot of work with AZ. Even the Never Enough joint is like one of my favorite songs off Doing Down 2.
Thank you. Shout out to my co-producer. Shout out to my co-producer on that record, Rockimus Prime. You know what I mean? It was music. He had an idea from a Japanese sample, and then I took the record with him, and then I placed it with an up-and-coming singer named Mara Kay from Brooklyn. I loved her tone. Her vocal tone reminded me of like Amy Winehouse, and she's a purist. She's a real jazz singer. She really like sings in jazz clubs with a band, live band, like for real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
White chick from Brooklyn, really talented.
if nobody hasn't said this to you yet, I'm telling you, you need to try to get something to Rick Ross, because
You know, it's so funny because I had some
Lexus,
conversations about that. I had some conversations about that, and then Ross had dropped the album like right around that time. And by the way, there's a deluxe version of AZ's album and a deluxe version of Ross's latest album that both came out at the same time. And AZ has a song on the deluxe version of Ross's album featuring him, and then the song I have with Ross is on the AZ album. So they've built a working relationship, and there's some things that's going to be happening with them. But I'm not going to let the cat out the bag.
FX, come on, but FX is gonna. He was like, come on.
Yo, can I tell you something? I'm glad you asked that question. I'm glad you said that, because it's like, remember I said earlier, sometimes with our discussion, it seems like neither one of us is about to push the button.
That's one of
that was one of those conversations right there. And you see how he was, right? Like, like,
Man. I'm saying that.
I'm learning that people do watch my interviews, and I do get them phone calls, man. So I'm not sleeping on y'all. I'm not sleeping on y'all audience. I'm gonna get a phone call after this, bro.
I'm saying that respectfully as a fan. I listen to AZ on the beat. AZ kills it always. So you know what you was getting from A. But then I listened to Rick Ross on. I'm like, based on
Ross's verse was crazy.
Yeah, his verse was crazy, and just the style of that beat, like the melodies and everything. I'm like, this. Yeah. It's like whoever decided to put Rick Ross on that track. If it was A, he definitely knew what he was doing. That was a perfect feature for him.
Like, we put the record together that had the hook already. It had
turn the light on a little bit. It seems like it's getting dark.
Yeah. We had the hook and we had A on it, and then between him and his management, we pondered around. It was like, let's try to get it to him. And I heard from A years before. He had met Ross years ago, and he said Ross approached him and was like, I'm a big fan, love to work with you. So he knew that Ross was a fan of his work, and even though he's technically in terms of mainstream notoriety and stature, a more widely recognized artist than AZ, but the respect within the culture is there between them. So that's when he reached out. He did interviews with this album on behalf of this album, and he said everyone he reached out to, from Lil Wayne on down, it was like
students. Yeah, they students.
They all showed love. It was never political, and I'm happy for him, because I've always said you should never worry about being afraid to reach out. Just reach out. You never know. People know who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah. Yo, so
I'm just happy for him, because this album was very well received, man.
It definitely was. We gotta get ready to wrap, but I had another question, and then I want to give you opportunity also to talk about like the things that you got in the mix with brothers is working on. What made you transition from the producer artist hat to the executive hat to be like the label owner kind of thing? What led to that transition?
I think it was just the school of hard knocks and natural transition. Like I was saying, from the Duck Down days to after that, I just looked at my career and I looked at the fact that I had to wear different hats. I started doing A&R consulting for Koch Records. I started doing road management and product management for Main Source. I just started doing different things, not just to make money, but to explore business, understanding art, understanding culture, and having relationships.
There you go.
As a working producer, you build relationships on different levels. Other artists, other producers, record label executives, A&Rs, people who do marketing. So it's like, why don't I, capitalize on these relationships and just create different opportunities for myself?
Right.
So shout to my mentor, Neil Levine, the owner of Penalty Records, who gave me my first opportunity.
Okay.
Like, I had an artist that was had deals on the table, that I had did some music for. He was from Portland, Oregon. Shout to Illa. He goes by the name SOXO now, and he had offers on the table. And I went to, when Neil was at VP of A&R at the time for E1 Records, formerly known as Koch. I came to him when it was E1, and I said, I want to pitch this to you. And he was like, I can't offer you a big budget, but I like what I'm hearing. I see the potential. I'm gonna give you distribution, and you can put that record out and put some muscle behind it, and we'll see what happens. And that was my opener. Before that, I did smaller deals. Like I did a deal with, like I said, with Universal Republic, with Monty and Avery Littman, but I wasn't ready because I was just learning how important it is when you do a distribution partnership as a label to have your own resources and money. You know what I'm saying? To push a record. So I was actually working with a mill, Formula Rockefeller at the time when I did that deal,
Wow.
and I developed a whole body of work. Effects hosted a mixtape called A Mill Returns. You could Google it on YouTube, and I didn't put her music out. We had music from me, Kwame, Easy Mo B, incredible records that's
Wow.
sitting in my computer to this day. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't put it out because I didn't have the resources to push it a certain way. And
Yeah.
then when I did the E1 deal, I put that record out by that artist. It did well, generated some real numbers. And this is before the digital age is now what it was then. We're talking like 2007, 2008. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I learned from that. So I said, all right, from now on, I'm going to build my resources because your
Right.
resources is important, not just the money when it comes to
Right.
pushing music. You know
See
what I'm
that?
saying? So that if I get another distribution deal, I'll know how to operate. So after the E1 situation, I did a couple of venture partnership deals with a couple of different independent artists, played an executive producer role, developed their music, put it out, did whatever I did. And then I got to this point with an artist out of the Midwest, Michigan, named Dre Banks. Shout out to Dre Banks, one of my childhood friends. Effects is actually doing a mixtape that they're gonna drop. They got a series called Coke Is It, Volume 1 and 2 that's out. They got a
Okay.
new
Yeah.
tape coming. You can look out for that.
Nice.
And with Dre, I put out a couple singles, and I ended up getting distribution situation with 300 Entertainment. They have a distribution arm called Sparta. You know what I mean? And the reason I have built that relationship with 300 is because my business partner Antonio Velaz out in LA, he came from Love and Hip Hop fame. He was managing a female artist by the name of Summer Bunny, who was
Okay.
known as the mistress from the whole Cardi Offset situation some years ago. You know what I'm saying? So we were pushing her for a little bit, but things didn't go as planned. So his son started buzzing. His son's name is Little Zell, and he ended up getting signed at 300. He's still over there for a seven-figure deal. So the
Nice.
relationship we built from that, we formed a partnership to do the distribution, and we put out my boy Dre Banks. Both of his records are doing well. He has a song out I co-produced featuring Trina that streamed over a million. He
Yeah.
has
That's
another record out called Off the Chain that's over 4 million in streams.
wow.
And now Effects is about to do like a mixtape to put out a body of work just so he can
Okay.
have more than just a
Well,
single in
keep
the
the
market, so
momentum
people can
going.
really, really
Yeah.
keep him
Yeah.
keep him in the mix. You know what I mean? And then, like I'm just excited because now I really got my feet wet with the executive hat, and
Mm.
I've learned a lot over the last 10, 15 years. I know what to do and what not to do, and how to
There you
use
go.
money wisely and
There you go.
maximize the potential of a record. You
There
know what I'm
you go.
saying?
Yeah.
But right now, my hump is getting the other executives, the bigger executives, to be like, yo, this kid knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So once I got me and my partner and our company on a certain level independently, then we have those venture partnership conversations where the bag comes in. But I'm going to do it in a way where I always control my destiny. You know what I'm
That's how
saying?
you got to do it.
I'm not gonna let nobody come in just because they bring in a check and then
And
take
create your
over and
narrative.
control the
Yeah.
masses and control the
Yeah.
narrative.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
said, I'm not doing that. I'll
Yeah.
wait.
And you got to keep
I'm cool.
FX with you too to keep so he can
Oh
keep you
yeah.
honest.
That's why
Yeah.
he's here, man. That's why
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's here.
man. Yo,
He's
yo,
he's the checks and
trust me.
balances.
Trust me, man. Yo, we talk all the time, and
Yeah.
I always give him my input of,
Yeah.
you know, things like
He's the
that.
checks and
So
balances, man.
Yeah.
And
That's how it's
it's a lot
supposed
of
to
work. It's a lot of hard work, but it will pay off.
It
And
will pay off. That's a fact.
but so right now I'm just balancing between being a working producer and running this label. Just on the producer side, I'm co-executive producer Moni Love's new album. It's called Love Struck. We have a
yeah,
song out featuring Sky Zoo, song and video. Go check it out. It's called Divine.
be.
I
Nice.
just finished mixing her next single with an artist out of Europe, crazy record. And it's gonna feature production from me, Kwame, producer Apollo Brown from Detroit.
Mm.
So look out for that. It's real dope. And still working with Dre Banks. Like I said, Effects got the mixtape coming.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I'm working with actually an artist from Queens that was introduced to me by Effects by the name of Salih Bey. You know what I'm saying? He's got a real organic sound. It's
He's a
like
more.
50 meets it's like 50 meets Most
What'd you
Def
say?
meets Jay
He's a
Electronica.
more.
He's a more. Yep.
He's a more.
Yep.
Yes, sir. I know that's an energy coming towards you, bro.
Yeah, yeah. His music is like 50
Yo,
meets
you know what's so crazy?
Most Def meets Jay Electronica. It's gonna be crazy.
Hold on. He said it right. He just summed it all up in one. He said, "Yo, he's a more," and then then he said, "Yo, that's energy coming right to you." And let me tell you something. He is nothing but
Energy,
positive energy.
And the music is coming out crazy. I'm really impressed, you know.
nice.
Because we knew each other for years. He been doing mixtapes with Effects from a time ago as an up and working artist, and then he took a hiatus and he came back to the table to work with us. And like now,
Right.
it's crazy. And he representing Queens. You dig what I'm saying? So stay tuned for that, you know. And of course, the whole big homie AZ called me not too long ago, so I believe we'll be in the works and working on some new music for another album.
Get back
soon.
in the lab.
Yeah, for sure. And
you said you was holding on to some shit, AZ and Nas shit.
Whoa.
Man.
Oh, you linked.
I can't.
You linked that one.
It's hard to speak on that because, you know, those guys have worked on records that never came out. There's a record called Sirius that Salaam Remi produced some years ago. We talking about back when Nas did that double album.
Yeah.
And that leaked on the internet, but that was as far as it went. And that record was crazy. And I've had records that I've done with them that never came out. And I don't know what's being done with that catalog. So
you know everybody want that album bad.
Oh, I've said it and I say it again. When they do an album, I'm already prepared.
You already locked it.
I got records ready for that. You know what I'm saying?
So you turn it on and be like, this is a story about the world.
You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's just as far as like tech companies and partnerships. I just recently partnered with a company called Paradigm Audio, where I'm going to be doing an NFT release of an instrumental album originally developed in the past. I told y'all around 2007 called Throwback City, but I'm re-releasing it with a lot of other material that I never put out before. So I'm calling it Throwback City Decade. So it's like 20 years of unreleased music as instrumentals. You know what I'm saying? And I'm putting that out as an NFT. And
it's funny. Someone in the comments about NFT.
Yeah. And I recently partnered with this company called Fanmire, FANMIRE. Shout out to the owner, Jamel Anderson. I'm working with them as an influencer to share exclusive content. So a lot of the content you hear me talking about, I'm going to just share it exclusively through that platform. So people can subscribe and see me behind the scenes working on the music with Effects, doing stuff with all the artists I'm working with, behind the scenes making videos, you know, running my label, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Just exclusive content available on Fanmire. Yeah. So that's like the sum of pretty much what I'm up to these days. And of course, shout out to Untouchables. Untouchables is the family with me and Effects. You know what I'm saying? That's the DJ family that, you know, y'all gonna hear a lot more about.
And then that, B Peasy, now he's DJ Baby Paul.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? So you see how that pan out?
That's it.
I'm quiet about it though. I let him do all the talking when he comes to that. Yeah, you know, like,
we definitely appreciate you brothers pulling up. This was a dope conversation.
Yeah, man.
Hip hop talk. Yo, I appreciate y'all dropping them gems too. Like, yo, anytime to me we get an opportunity to educate the audience, it's one that we have to take advantage of it, because like I said, we always have these conversations where artists come on and, you know, they talk about like the pitfalls and things they've run into in the industry. And to me, it just seems like a cycle of something that continues to repeat itself. It just happens over and over again, you know? So when I heard you speaking about it, I'm like, yo, if we could get a little bit more comprehensive breakdown as it relates to some of this stuff, because I think, you know, I don't know if people really know the intricate details that go along with it. I just think people go with, yo, I didn't get
music
paid.
Business is so much more than the music, bro. You know, I come from a school of hard knocks. I had to learn that the hard way. Yeah. You know, hence the conversation we having, you know?
Right. Yeah. But I tell you what, look at all your business ventures as a result of it. So, you know, you learn from the lesson you built, and now you take it and now you sharing that information. So,
yeah, man. Definitely.
So again, appreciate you, brothers. Thank you for pulling up. We want to thank everybody for tuning in for the No Ideas Original Podcast. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to shout out everybody, including yourselves, for having us. Shout out for Effects for joining me. Shout out to my partner Antonio Velaz. Shout out to my company XMG. I am Dre Banks. Follow him online. Look out for that Moni Love Project, Love Struck. Look out for Salih Bey. You know what I mean? All the good stuff. Follow me on Instagram, Baby Paul B Peasy. Follow at DJ Mr. Effects.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
yeah. Shout out to my whole Untouchable family. You know, Saif, Mo. I can't forget DJ Uni. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to DJ Uni.
DJ Wreck the Beats and things like that. So, you know, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, for sure.
Listen, bro. It's our pleasure.
Check out the Instagram live, and you see when you see me and Effects on Instagram live, we up to something. We up to something.
We'll be in your
mixes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in
and
your
he's
comments,
also on
bro.
Bigo. Yeah.
All right,
fellas.
Salute.
Salute.
Dope, bro.
Very dope interview.
We got some good time out of that too, man.
Yeah, very dope interview. I like people that's interested and excited.
Yeah, man. We
very
having good talks about, you know, what they've been through, how did their accomplishments, you know, the experiences. That's what you want people to learn from, man. Learn from your experience, man.
Salute to Baby Paul and salute to DJ Mr. Effects. Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.